This morning, I was talking to you about the different kinds of yogas, the different means people have employed to find the true self and to find the way to their true home to which we belong. And I mentioned that there are methods by which they were able to have extraordinary experiences by using breathing techniques, calling that as pranayam. And then there were other techniques of using all the heart and other centers, which they call as the yoga of the six chakras, energy chakras. And then they had also used other methods by which they could access the third eye center behind the eyes and go within. I mentioned that out of all the systems which I have personally gone through and investigated, even after I met my teacher, whose picture is here, great master, Hazur Maharaj Baba Sawan Singh, even after I met him, I still explored those things because he told me. He said, go and find something that is better than what I'm giving you. And I'm still exploring. If I find something better than what I'm sharing with you, I will take it instantly. This is a very open thing. It is not a cult, it's not a religion. You can belong to any religion, belong to any nationality, no question of gender, no question of age, and you can be taking part in discovering your own self. It has nothing to do with any outside rules. It's a discovery of your own self. Now, when I mentioned to you that the yoga that best suited me, and I found it can take us to the highest level of awareness and consciousness, it is a Surta Shabda Yoga, which means the yoga of putting your attention on the sound that is available now. Why we call it sound, instead of calling the power or the creative power or any other word, is because in the physical body, we can hear it. In meditation, if we go within to the third eye center, it can be heard by anybody. And it is several sounds we can hear inside, which have nothing to do with outside. And these ears don't participate at all in listening to those sounds. You can completely block these ears and you hear them even more clearly, the inner sounds. That inner music that's coming is directly coming from our consciousness, from our soul, and not coming from the coverings. It's not the mind creating it. It's not the body creating it. It's not sensory perceptions creating it. It's our true life force, our soul creating it. And since we can hear our own soul, there's no better way than to listen and go within. So that is why I found this as the best method. Now, when we say it is sound, now I must qualify that sound is the word that we use in a certain context here. We only think that is sound which can be heard with these ears. And we think these words we speak, the language we speak, the music we hear, that is sound. Words are sound, we can hear them, music we can hear. So we are used to thinking sound means what we can hear with these ears. But that is the beginning is all right even for inside. Even inside, when we hear the sound, it is sound that can be heard outside also. It's very similar. The very basic sound, which brings us to even a knowledge of what we are going to do, is called the spoken word, the spoken language. Language I am using now. And I can use any language, speak in any language. It is still spoken language. It's a sound. These ears hear them, and these ears interpret them. They understand what the language means based upon association of ideas with that sound, with things and experiences we have had. Ultimately, you will notice that what we call language is nothing more than phonetic symbols, sounds, which we have been associating right from the beginning of our life with other experiences. Supposing as a baby is born and hears the word chair and sees one chair, the baby chair. Every time we talk of that chair, which is outside an experience, a perception of a chair, the baby associates the word chair to that little chair. As the baby grows up, he sees more chairs, bigger, different, but they all become chairs. So the word chair keeps on expanding in its meaning as the child grows up And ultimately, it can include thousands of chairs. You can see any chair, it will be the chair. The same word. The entire language of any country, of any nation, is based upon these association of ideas with experiences. But this is the very language from which we have to understand the message of these human beings. We call them masters, or we call them these mystics who are telling us about inner experiences. So they speak, and we hear in ordinary language. So truthfully, when we say this is a path of putting attention on sound, it starts from the sound of a spoken language. And we call it, in India, we call it Varanatmak Shabd. That means sound that can be spoken or written. So this is the beginning. But the moment we are able to hold our attention within, after listening to instructions given in spoken language, then we hear the inner sound, which is a melody. It's a melody which has its own beauty of the song. It is not stuck like you want to ring a bell here. You to strike the bell and that jars, but the peal of the bell is fine. But the striking jars it, but you can't create the peal of the bell without jarring it. On the other hand, when you hear the bell sound inside, it has no jarring strike. It's a continuous sound of the peal of the bell. And you can hear it inside. Now that is converting this spoken language into a sound that can be heard, but is not spoken. It's not a word, and nor can it even be, the melody and beauty can't even be written down. Outside music we can write, but that music cannot be written, but can be listened to. Then it turns into, from Varanatmak Shabd, that means a sound that is written and spoken, into the unwritten melody that can be heard. It becomes Dhunatmak Shabd. Dhunatmak means which is a dhun, a melody. But then that's only the second stage. In the astral plane, that sound becomes our language. So much so that if you have that tuned in with that language, then somebody can communicate with you in another spoken physical language and you understand it. What we call telepathy here. This telepathic communication, even here, I don't know if you ever noticed that when people say, I can telepathically understand somebody, do you know the spoken language is not involved in that? What one person wants to say, the intention and the meaning of what one wants to say, and then uses words of a particular language, the other person understands the meaning, even though does not know the language, and then translates into his or her own language. I know people speaking only English, communicating telepathically with friends in Germany, and the German friends don't know English, and they think of something and after thinking they put it into words in English. The German friend understands what they wanted to say and understand it in German. Now, when you know that telepathic communication works like that, it's very interesting to find out that when you raise your consciousness to the astral level, which means when you are not aware of the physical body, but still aware of your inner body, all communication is telepathic. And you can communicate with people by just expressing your intention in your head and use any words or not use any words. Other person understands it. So there are so many differences that start taking place when you raise your awareness to different levels. So then the Dhunatmak Shabd, the melodious music of the inner self that can be heard, is so beautiful, it pulls you to itself. And that pull which you find, it takes you off your feet. It can be heard even in the beginning when you are still in your physical body and not fully unaware of the body. It's pulling you inside, and it's a wonderful experience to be pulled inside, become unaware of the body, and discover you are still there and very much there. So that experience leads to the next one, and the next experience is where you get into the midst of a song. Not that there is a song that you can start listening and ending. It looks like you have gone into a music that was there. You are always in the music. It's like entering into an infinity of sound, infinity of a music that was already there and you're part of the infinity. That means you discover your own endlessness, that you were not for time being here, which you think you are. The physical body is very time bound in a very small fraction of a time living here considering the billions of dollars they talk about, billions of years, time that has existed here, 100 years, 80 years, whatever life we live, 150 years at the most, those are very small time frames in eternity. But when you go beyond the astral plane into the causal plane, where you are unaware even of your sense perceptions, and only the mind and its power to grasp and its power to experience comes up, you enter into a melody which you feel you are that melody, you are always there. And that is called the Anhad Shabd, which means a sound which has no beginning, no middle, and no end. It's Anhad. And that's the sound of the causal plane. But this is all these three realms, the physical realm, the astral or sensory realm, and the causal or mental realm. These are all realms of the mind. And we work in time and space in all these three. In time and space, we work on cause and effect in all these three. Our truth about who we are is not discovered till now. We think we have discovered. Just like now we think we are a physical body is ourself. At the next stage, we think that is our real self, that's our soul. The body was not real. And later we find even that was not our soul. Our soul is inside. When we come to our mind per se, where the mind alone exists, we think that is our soul. Now we found out. And most of these very highly enlightened people have stopped there, thinking this is the end. There's nothing beyond that. It's the very point of creation, the point of creation of the all three worlds. So how can there be anything more? And all this information and all this knowledge that is being gained by the mind. And therefore the mind stops where it finds its own universality. It finds that it is all part of one. And from the one, the experience is being divided into many. But it is not realized that the mind itself is merely an accessory to consciousness. And consciousness that empowers the mind, that makes the mind alive, that makes the body alive, that consciousness is different. With the meditational practices, we are able to see the difference between the two right from now. In the meditation workshops that I conduct, one of the exercises we do is how to sit behind the eyes at the third eye center and separate yourself and see the mind thinking independently. And then you realize just a machine working. And you are just using the machine. When you want to think something, you use a machine. But we have used it so much that we identify with it. We think that's the self. And this separation of your own self, the true self, from the mind does not take place with the help of the mind and does not take place up to the causal region. There you have to get help from somebody who can pull you from there. And I mentioned in the morning that that is the work of a perfect living master who already when he is in the human form with us is operating from there. And with his power of unconditional love, he pulls us through from the mind to discover that we are the soul. The soul is discovered where, which is called the stage of Par Brahm, even beyond Brahm, even beyond the creative power of the three universes. So when we reach that point, first time we realize who we are. We are a unit of consciousness. The rest is being created by that consciousness. And this very sound, which has become infinite in the third region, becomes essential and real as a discovery of your own self. It is the soul. The same sound becomes the soul. And we discover the soul making the sound continuously, even in the other three regions of creation that we were experiencing below. And it has been called Sar Shabd, or which has been sometimes translated essential Shabd, Sar, or real Shabd. The real Shabd is discovered when you find that is the soul and the same thing. So it's not listening to it then. Listening ends there. It is becoming. You become that. But that's not the end of our journey still. And many people, many of the highest realized people in the world have stopped there when they discovered the self. They said, know thyself. They found the self. It's the soul that creates everything. It's the unit of consciousness that creates everything. But there are a few mystics who have gone beyond that. They have found that even the individuation, even the feeling you are a separate one unit of consciousness is also a cover upon yourself. It's also a created thing. And what is the truth, reality? That you are not a separate unit of consciousness. You are experiencing being a unit of consciousness while you're still part of a larger total consciousness, which everything is happening within that. And then, when you reach that stage, you discover totality of consciousness. The whole drama of creation of all levels is taking place there. You become part of the whole. When I was young, somebody likened this spiritual journey to a drop which is separated from the ocean and taken far away, and it is now striving to go back, trying very hard to go back and merge in the ocean. This is how the spiritual journey was described to me. And I thought to myself, I was very critical of these things, and I thought to myself, what a kind of journey is this? Right now I am a drop. I have a beautiful place, sun shines, and I make a rainbow within myself, and I am colorful. I have so much, I am a drop living with my own identity. Now they are saying, struggle hard, meditate, go all the way back to your true home, merge and become the ocean. I lose everything. The drop finishes. Ocean doesn't need one more drop. It won't gain anything. I lose everything. Ocean doesn't gain anything. It's called a lose-lose operation. I said, what kind of spiritual journey is this? I am not interested in this. I'd rather stay as a drop than go and merge myself in an ocean. But I was wrong. It took me actual experience to find out that is not the truth at all. The truth is the drop never left the ocean. The drop was the ocean. It only contracted its awareness to a drop within the ocean. There was no journey involved. The spiritual path is not a journey. The spiritual path is awakening yourself to that awareness, expanding your awareness and discovering you are always the ocean. That in that little drop, you represented the ocean. And you are always the ocean. In the ocean, never separated. We are never separated from our totality. It's the awareness that has collapsed to a point that has created all the different levels of experiences, and we call them levels of consciousness. So therefore, when we reach our ultimate true home, we find the whole show took place. We are the authors of the show. We are the authors of the entire show. That we were worshipping somebody else. We were our own totality we were worshipping. That people say, can you see God? And my answer is, which God? God that exists really somewhere, or a God that we made up? And every time nobody has been able to describe a God that really exists, they all told me about the God we made up. Because they say, one day we can go and see God. Now remember, if you can see God, that means you are still separate from God. And nothing is separate from God by definition. God is total. If you can see God, then that can't be God. The only way to see God is to be God, to become God. Then only you are in totality. So when somebody says, I see God, it's man-made God. But when you become the same consciousness, then you are experiencing God. So to experience the totality of consciousness, which is the creative power ultimately, which is only one, and that one becomes the many for various beautiful reasons. The most beautiful reason is that one has an innate quality, the power of the soul or consciousness, which I mentioned in the morning, which is love, intuitive knowledge, bliss. Now when and appreciation of beauty. Now when you can create the many, you experience all these. If you don't create the many, how do you experience it? So within itself, within the one, we create the many to experience love, to experience beauty, to experience intuitive knowledge. And then you can carry on this further by putting on more masks upon ourselves. The mask of the mind, the mask of sense perceptions, the mask of physical body, and have even more experiences, a variety of experiences. For the same reason, ultimately what we want to do is to have intuitive, real knowledge. We all want it. Experience real love. To love and to be loved is one of the most essential things in our own system, in our soul. All these things are basic to us, inside us. And to experience them, we create a separation and then rejoining. And that's the best experience we can have And that spiritual path offers us that experience. So that is why the final shabd where you can, the sound or word is totality of consciousness. The sat shabd, the true shabd, the true sound, we still call it sound. Now you will notice that the sound is only the beginning of this exercise. The rest we still keep on calling sound because our starting point is to listen to a sound. That is why we keep on calling sound. Ultimately, the whole reality is sound. Everything is sound. But it's not sound that we hear here. It's the creative power that we're giving this name. We did not have any other name and accept this. And yet, in religion, people have started calling that word which made everything into a book. They call their scriptures by that word as if that is the word, that is the Shabd, that is the Bani. In every religion I find that they have reduced that creative power, which is the ultimate truth of ours, into written texts written by people, human beings here. And they have been using that word even with W capital. I saw the Columbia dictionary or Oxford English Dictionary. What does they say about the word with a W capital? And I saw it says W capital word means the Bible. It means a book. It means a book that has been translated several times and versions have been changed again and again. In the 7th century Ecumenical Council, they took out Gospels out of it and put new ones in 7th century. And then in the United States of America, I find what they call the Word of God was authorized by a king in England. And that's version they are reading, and they still think is the same word we are talking of, which created the whole universe. So we are so far away from the truth, and we take this physical world as our only reality. And that's why we get so mixed up, and we want to find everything out here. And our mind says, yes, find everything out. The mind is all pointed outward and can't see anything inside. So we spend our whole life looking outside. Why not try and see what is inside? Why not turn inside and see if all these truths that we are hearing about, are they true? The most beautiful part of the spiritual path that I am talking of, that I found was, it is experiential. It does not require any blind faith. It does not require, you believe all this, and then it will happen. It says, you believe you are you. You believe you are a self. You believe you are a conscious being. Good enough. Start from there. Now try to find out what makes you conscious. Try to find out how you are alive. It's your exploration of your own self. You can follow any religion, be any nationality, follow anything, follow even the rituals of religion. No harm. Enjoy festivals. Have a good time with people. But don't think that's going to give you a journey to your own self. Enjoy with them. Enjoy all the festivities, the rituals, the ceremonies, and then come home and meditate and find out the truth. So you have the cake, eat it too. Eat the cake and have it too. It's not necessary to do anything it's not to impress people, it's to impress yourself that you are trying to find the spiritual journey. So I hope that we will be able to go further. Tomorrow, if you are interested, I'll hold a short meditation session also. How many of you would like to participate in a meditation session? Okay, quite a few. All right. Tomorrow I'll organize that also. Okay? Then I come in the morning. So right now we'll take up a few more questions which were left off. In the orange juice experiment, I can feel all the parts of my body that the juice flows into, but I can't seem to feel the third eye center. First of all, how many of you have done the orange juice experiment? How many of you have never done it? Oh, so many. So tomorrow, remind me, we'll do the orange juice experiment. And the purpose of that orange juice experiment is not to see the third eye center. The purpose is to show that your attention can be placed anywhere in the body that you like. And therefore, it can be placed on the third eye center also. So the orange juice experiment is really an experiment just to show what one can do with one's attention. So tomorrow we'll do it. Naturally, you can't see the third eye center with the orange juice experiment because it is only showing you parts of this body. And third eye center is not part of this body. It's part of the internal self. So when we do it tomorrow, if you remind me, I'll explain further how that power of moving the attention on the body can be used to put the attention on the third eye center, which is the next step. Do you dream of great master Savan? It is true, when we dream of our master, this is reality. How can it be reality when we call it dream to start with? We are saying we are dreaming, so obviously dream is not reality. Is the wakeful state reality? No, when we are saying that the reality is somewhere else, this is also a dream from which we can wake up more. If we wake up to the astral self, is that reality? No, it looks reality, but it's not, because we can wake up more. Every time you can wake up, it can't be reality. Is that reality? No, then what is reality? Reality is the final awakening to the point of totality of consciousness and the oneness that we discover there. That's the only reality. The rest are created realities. The created realities, they look real with a reference to the next lower dream that we have. This reality we are living in would not be real if we never dreamt something in a dream. When we dream, we go to a lower reality. While we're dreaming, it looks real. We wake up, we find, no, that was just a dream. This is real. We have never asked for any proof about wakefulness. But when somebody says you can awaken to a higher stage, we ask proof. Show us proof that you can awaken higher. Show this is not real. Show this. Supposing we are dreaming and we ask the same question in a dream, that somebody says it's a dream and we say, no, prove it, it's a dream. Nobody can prove it. They'll all say, no, we can't prove it, it's real. Why, who tells you it's a dream? Then we wake up, we find it's a dream. When we wake up, we don't pinch our body to see, are we real? We don't call anybody for evidence that are we real, are we awake? How do we find out that we are awake? And the certainty of wakefulness has been compared with no other certainty we know of. It's the most perfect 100% certainty when we wake up in the morning and we know we are awake. We don't have to open our eyes. We are lying in bed, sleeping. We wake up. Before we can open our eyes, before we can move our body, we know we are awake. What part of consciousness gives us that feeling we are awake? And 1,000 people can come at that time and say, you're not awake, and you say, no, I am awake, I know it. What's the secret that gives you certainty, so much certainty about wakefulness? The secret is not on what you are experiencing when you wake up. The secret is what you experienced before you went to sleep. When we wake up with our eyes closed, we know that we went to sleep in this bed. The whole past before our sleeping comes back, and that is what connects us with the new wakefulness, and we know we are awake. It's the same thing that happens in higher wakefulness. When you awake to a higher level of consciousness, you reconnect. You are being there earlier. And that's the certainty you get that you are awake. Otherwise, if we never had any connection with the past, every time we go to sleep and wake up, we'll never know we are awake or we're dreaming. So it's a connection with an earlier experience that connects us and makes us certain, absolutely certain, we are awake, and nobody needs any verification of that. So the dream is, of course, a dream, but we make it real while it's lasting. Like we're making this one, the wakeful state, like a reality. Because it will remain real unless we wake up to a higher level. As soon as we wake up to a higher level, you automatically know it was a dream. And dreams set up with very definite purposes. When we dream at night, how do the sequences take place in the dream? Most of those sequences come from what we've been thinking about earlier. Previous events that have taken place. Some things may have happened when our childhood, and they come back when we are adults in our dreams. So there is a basis of the events and dreams. Similarly, there's a basis of the events in wakeful life caused by earlier events. And this is what we call the law of karma, that there are events earlier which create the events of this particular wakeful state we call being awake in the physical body, in the physical sense. So that is why When we dream, we make the dream a reality. When you are initiated by a perfect living master and you do your homework, minimum homework. Minimum homework means that you withdraw your attention at the third eye center up to the point where you can see the radiant form of the master and see him. Then you don't have to wait to see him in a dream, you see him all the time. What will happen to the soul after someone dies? Does the soul create another person? Is the soul God? When somebody dies, the soul does not die. Soul is immortal, never dies. When a person dies in the physical body, he immediately becomes the astral body. The astral body is the body with no matter, but it has only got feelings, it can see, it has got eyes which are not visible to us. It's a disembodied spirit. That means it exists in a form which has no eyes, no ears like we can see, but it has eyes and ears which that soul in that body can see and begins to function in that form. Sometimes we like to call such disembodied spirits that have dead but are still around us as ghosts and spirits, that they are around us. Some people say it's a haunted house, we know there's a ghost there. The ghosts are no more than people who have died and their disembodied spirit is still roaming around here. This astral plane that I talked about, where one can be without the physical body, but in an astral body, has an overlap. That means part of it is overlapping with the physical body and part of it is beyond that. The one that is overlapping, a person even after death can be still roaming around here in the physical part and is invisible to us because it is not the physical body, where we can only see physical bodies. It tries to connect with us. It tries to interfere with us because it thinks that we are still connected. But it's very difficult for it to connect because it's not physical. And here the laws of physical matter apply. But it still tries to use its energy in any way it can to affect us. But it is not really the power of that astral body to become human. Sometimes it tries to find a weak person, a very weak person, and tries to walk in and can manage to displace the consciousness of a person and get in and use that body temporarily. So we call them walk-ins, and some people suddenly go into a trance, forget themselves, and somebody else starts speaking in them. That's one of the disembodied spirits that can go into another person. And this happens rarely, but it does happen sometimes. There is a man I saw, and a woman was disembodied, and the moment she would come, his voice would change. He would speak in the feminine self. In that language, they have a separate language for feminine gender, and start speaking in that gender instead of speaking the normal way. And then it would leave, and then the man would be back again in the normal way. So sometimes the disembodied spirits function like that. They remain in that state for a certain period. And the period is determined by their karma. Especially if a person commits suicide. That means an unnatural death before time. Now what is the meaning of before time? Before time means there's a notional life we have and an actual life. Notional life is based upon series of events which ought to happen if there's no interruption in the middle. And the interruption takes in the middle, the notional life continues. That person hangs around. That individual in the disembodied spirit hangs around like a ghost or a spirit. And till the point of the notional death which will come, and for so many years it remains in this state, and then dies in that body, then moves on. So there are many variations of this. For example, a disembodied spirit or a ghost can be two kinds. In Indian language, we distinguish between the two as bhoot and pret. Bhoot is a ghost that has been so disappointed in human life and physical life, is now searching for something that was missing here and roams all around. It can fly very fast, so it flies around different parts of the world and is continuously moving. And Pret is a ghost or disembodied spirit that has been stuck by one place because of the murder, some offense, some has taken place at a particular area and stays there and haunts that place. So there are two kinds of disembodied spirits, and that is what happens to them. But the soul is immortal. These are the bodies of a person. From there they can be reborn again as human beings or as other forms of life. They do not reach the level of the soul. If they reach the level of the soul, then there is never rebirth, then they are never born. The soul in its totality, when it becomes total, merges with its totality, becomes God. Soul as individual is not God, but soul when it becomes total is God. Why were we born as twins in this lifetime? Because in a previous lifetime we loved each other too much and wanted to be together. So you were together right from inception, from conception, right from the point you were being even made to be born. So you decided to be together. So it's an old attachment from past lives. Can you compare the astral and mental planes of theosophy and the astral causal planes of Santmat? Where are the lines to be drawn? Not many lines. The original division was very similar. Original division was almost the same. Only in the interpretations we are making today, we are beginning to draw lines and make those as distinct forms in which we live. And what is the astral form? The astral form is the form of life, a form which has no physical material body, yet it has all the sense perceptions. It doesn't differ from the definition in theosophy. So when we say that the astral form is a sensory body, it has the sense perceptions intact, but does not have any matter in it, it represents that body, no matter by what name you call it. When it becomes causal body or a mental body, it only has the mind. It is not a body. Yet, when we want to use it to explain what it looks like, it does not have a resemblance with this body. At the most, you can say it is creating itself into an oblong type of form of light or awareness. And that oblong form of the light is yourself. And you feel you are just that. You are free. You are not living in a world of objects. You are not living in a world of ideas. You are living in a world of concepts. So one has to understand that these three things are different. Now going back to a description of a word I used in the morning, the chair. How association of ideas creates a chair for a baby, and the chair enlarges in meaning till it becomes all chairs. Let me go one step ahead. Where did the idea of a chair come from? According to Socrates, as expressed by Plato, the Greek philosopher, he says the world of ideas is more real than this physical world, because nothing could be here without the world of ideas. He gives us the same example of a chair. Maybe I stole the idea from him. He says, when we say this is a chair, the idea of a chair, the first chair, was thought out in the world of ideas, not in the physical world. Something on which we have a raised place and we can sit on this comfortably, and it is not we have to squat on the ground. Some little definition, an idea, what we call an idea of a chair, came first. From that, the first chair came up. Whoever designed the first chair picked up that idea from the astral plane, picked up that idea from the world of ideas. Once he had placed the chair, he designed many different kinds of chairs. And by now, we have millions of designs of chairs, but they all fit in with the single idea of a chair. So one idea of a chair created all the millions of chairs of different sizes and shapes. But before the idea of a chair came, how did somebody get an idea of a chair? It came from the concept of something to sit on, concept that there is a body which can sit, a concept where the body was not required to sit, which is the causal body. We are talking about the mental body. The mental body did not require to sit. It created a concept for a new experience. The concept, one can sit. And one can sit in different ways. That concept of being able to sit created the idea of a chair, and the idea of a chair created all the chairs here. These are the functions of the causal, astral, and physical world. These are the functions of our causal self, our astral self, and our physical self here in the mind. These are three forms of the mind. The mind itself functions in the physical body as pindi man or physical mind and treats everything at physical level. In the astral level, it's the andi man or the astral mind, and that thinks only in ideas. And in the causal plane, it only talks of concepts. So the function of the mind changes as we raise our awareness and go to that level. So that is why the theosophy, original theosophy, was talking very similar things about the different planes of consciousness and the planes at which the self expresses itself different ways. Today's interpretations are going on getting a little separated. But the best way to do is check it out. Why go by a debate on something that we are not seeing? Why not go and see it and see what it is there? And when you will see it, you will say, I can't say whether it was Santmat, the theosophy, because what I have seen is very difficult to explain. And when I try to explain it in words, people take it as one meaning. When I say, no, that's not what I meant, then I explain it in a different set of words, then people take a different meaning. No, that's not what I meant. Okay, I better keep my mouth shut, because I can't explain it. The true experiences cannot be explained. They're all analogies. They are all similarities we express. We are using physical symbols to describe something that is not physical. So the best way is check it out yourself. Go in. We can all go in. Do meditation. Meditate upon the self. Don't meditate. Meditation means thinking about something. Don't think about other things. Think about the self. Where it's coming from. And go deeper and deeper. You get answers to all these things. Is it true that if I am initiated, my loved ones are safe? Will I see loved ones who have passed? If one is initiated by a perfect living master, the effect of that goes on to the whole family and goes on to 7 generations after that person one initiate. The effect is very deep for being initiated by a person who we call perfect living master, whose awareness has reached that level. Even people with lesser awareness can give us so much benefit by being with them. But when a perfect living master initiates, accepts you, the effect is, a ripple effect is very large and goes on to 7 generations. Somebody had come to my master and said, Master, do you mean the 7 succeeding generations or the 7 preceding generations who already died? And Master said, what's the difference? They're the same guys moving around. After all, rebirth takes place in the same areas again and again. But the benefit is definitely very much there. And not only are they safe, that one day they all get initiated also. The benefit is very large. When you die, you do see people who are still there in that state. And many of them you can see. Those who are still in the overlap, you definitely see, because they are still around. And they are invisible when we are in the physical body, but when we are dead, we see them. When we are doing dying while living, this meditation is called dying while living. Because in the meditation, you are withdrawing your attention in the same way like you actually die. How do you die? When the body dies, if you have seen people who are dying, some of you may have seen in hospitals or terminal people who are dying slowly, and you can watch how people die. People die by losing their consciousness, losing their awareness from the extremities. Their hands and feet die first. They don't know where the hands and feet are. And the legs and the arms go. The torso comes last. The bottom of the torso goes first. They're still speaking to us. They're unaware where the legs and feet have gone. They're saying, please move my leg here. It's already there. Things like that you hear them say. Gradually the torso begins to die. It comes up. And they can't speak when it reaches here. When it goes into the head and the brain dead, they are dead. Then they are dead. So death is a process by which the consciousness or the attention moves from extremities on to the brain and you die. Meditation, in order to withdraw attention to the third eye center, is very similar. That when you put your attention there, gradually you become unaware of your hands and feet. Then you become unaware of your legs and arms. Then you become unaware of your torso from the bottom. And you go on, only when the attention is continuously held there, you become totally unaware of your body. It is called dying while living. Paul says in the Bible, I die daily. It doesn't mean physical death, it means he experiences this, that he's able to withdraw attention and go into the next state. When you do that, die while living, you have the same experience that when you actually die. And therefore you can see your loved ones who have already passed away. Here's the same question. Will my loved ones, especially children, be protected when I'm initiated? Yes. But when I say yes, they'll be protected, I'm not saying that they will not go through their karma. Destiny, which we have to live through, is composed of highs and lows. It's composed of highs and lows so we can get a human birth. If it, as I said in the morning, if it's all high, we'll be somewhere else. If it's all low, we'll be somewhere else. All our destinies are a mixture of high and low. Sometimes we feel very good, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we are happy, sometimes we are not happy. So this is life form. It does not mean that protection means they will not go through their destiny. They will go through their destiny, but when serious crisis comes, they will be protected. And it will look like this could have been much worse, but it's being protected, and that is visible, is seen. So masters and divine powers do intervene in some of these areas where they find that this could be very harmful to somebody and is related to somebody who's initiated, and they take care of them. I have had much illness, harm, crises to bear and do great. I am ready to go home. Is this up to Master? Getting depressed by world as a whole. When one is happy, I don't find somebody who's happy wanting to go back home. I guess a little bit of unhappiness is needed to say we don't want to be here. If you're happy, why would you want to go anywhere? You like to stay here. So if you find where are the seeds of the seeking to go back home don't come from the happiness here. They come from unhappiness here. They come from illness. They come from disease. They come from depression. They come from disappointments. They come from rejections. They come, and we say, this is not the place. So some events of that kind do happen in our life, which make us seekers. If we don't have those events, why would we seek? How would the thought of saying, this is not my place, come? So one should not take these as unnatural events. These are natural things that happen to make us seekers and go back home. Now, is it not a bad idea that we should have to be falling sick and having problems and difficulties in order to go back home? It looks very unfair. It is unfair if you think this world is real. But if you can wake up from it and say, thank God it was just a nightmare, you don't mind it so much. And that's what happens. When we awaken, we discover it was a very bad dream. Thank God it was a dream. Can you describe the sounds of meditation for a beginner to know if I am in the right track in my listening meditations? When we try to listen to the sounds within after initiation, the instructions given at initiation also give you some guidance how to distinguish between sounds that are coming from outside and sounds that come from inside. Also, some sounds are physical, but they look like internal, such as the sound of your own breathing, the sound of your heartbeat, the sound of, if you start concentrating your attention in the head, the sound of flow of blood starts coming and making a sound inside. There are some sounds which are created by the physical body itself. And these sound differently at different points. They resemble something like a truck is going outside, or a train has stopped at a railroad station and there is that whistling sound of the engine or something, or there's sound of thunder, or continuous drumming sound. Several sounds like these, which are all sounds which are created around the sound that we are looking for. And these, I don't say don't listen to them. I call them practice sounds. I call them practice sounds because you are still listening to them with your attention and your imagination, your insight. Therefore, they are still helping you to withdraw your attention inside. But then comes a sound as if it is coming from a distance compared to these sounds, that these sounds are very close to us. And there's a sound like the peal of a bell, ringing of a bell taking place. That sound is normally the first sound that pulls us. Sometimes we need not hear the beat of the sound, only the bell sound, and once in a while we hear a little bit of it has a motion in it, it has a it is a, what you call this, sine effect in it, an up and down effect in it. Sometimes looks like a straight sound, but we can recognize it would be if a bell is struck and the peal of the bell goes on, a similar sound. That's essentially a sound from consciousness. Then we hear sounds which can come from the right side or the left side. Some people are advised, I'm told, some people are advised when they're told how to meditate, not to listen to the sound from the left side, only listen to the sound from right side. Only concentrate what comes from the right ear. First of all, the sound I am speaking of does not come from right or left ear. It is not a physical sound. It's not heard by these ears, and nor is it a real sound. So right and left are only practice sounds, no matter what. Therefore, when these sounds come, the advice is listen more to the right or the left. If sounds are coming from both sides, then it's preferable to listen to the right for the simple reason that the brain's intuitive section is on the right and the rational section on the left. We are trying to push ourselves to the intuitive section for intuitive knowledge. Therefore, the advice is that you listen to the right if you are hearing from both sides. If you are hearing only from one side, listen to it. No matter where it's coming from, it's a practice sound. But the sound that pulls you does not come from the right or the left. It seems to come either from the center where you are or just above you. It's coming from above or right where you are. But since the variation in the sounds is that some seem closer to us, some seem to be at a distance, very often the real sound that will pull you is at a distance. And you have to play with the sounds, play with one and the other, listen to one and the other, and play with them till you can find the distant melody. It's the most beautiful sound. There's no jarring in it. It's not like tinnitus or something like in the ear. Nothing to do with the ears at all. That sound, when it comes up, it's so melodious. Your attention picks it up. You have to move from one sound to another in meditation and then pick up that inner melodious sound which is sounding like a bell or a continuous bell. And when you pick up that, it has a pull of its own. And rapidly, you become unaware of the body and it helps you in meditation. Thank you very much for joining me again this afternoon.